this is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and this is the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at both of these in a speed test comparison to see how big of an upgrade you're going to get if you upgrade the 13 Pro Max to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So let's go ahead and begin this video with a boot up test in 3, 2, go, and see which can get there first. Now, keep in mind that the iPhone 16 Pro Max does have the Apple A18 Pro chip. That's up over the iPhone 13 Pro Max's A15 Bionic chip. And it does have 8 gigabytes of RAM. That's up 2 gigabytes of RAM over the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And the 13 Pro Max, for some weird reason, booted up like a second faster than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I've noticed that the iPhone 16 Pro Max hasn't been booting up as fast as some of the older iPhones. That could be meaning it needs a few updates. I don't know. It's just slightly slower to turn on than some of the older ones. So when looking at the biometrics, it's been Face ID forever, since like the iPhone 10. So there's nothing really different here. Of course, like I mentioned in my previous videos, you can go ahead and see that either one you go with, it's in the notch up there, and this one is in Dynamic Island. You're not going to see anything change really here. So same unlocking method. Although we do have ourselves the camera capture button on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I feel like this would have been a good area to put a Touch ID sensor as well. Not sure why they didn't just integrate that in there at the same time. You could add Touch ID and a camera capture button at the same exact time. So confirming the software, we're looking at 22A3354, same on the right, 22A3354, and these are the official versions. And quickly looking at the general software speed, we don't really see anything to speak of on the 16 Pro Max that's anything new, because if we look at the 13 Pro Max, also a ProMotion display. As a matter of fact, this was the time they introduced a ProMotion display, and I honestly think that we're having another 13 Pro Max like year with the 16 Pro Max. Not a radical redesign, nothing crazy in terms of all new stuff, a few new things, but you get a smoother phone, a better battery life, a better camera all around. This feels kind of like a 13 Pro Max like year for the 16 Pro Max. Okay guys, so we have arrived at the app portion of this video, and you could see everything is closed out for both. Let's go ahead and begin with calendar, and you could see identical. Let's go into calculator. You could see pretty much identical. And how about clock? You could see once again identical. Let's go into weather on both, and you could see a little faster on the left. I'm gonna give that one to the 16 Pro Max. Let's take it over here into Apple News, and you'll see that was the left because it was still loading the pages. On the right, we'll take it over to the iPhone News, and you could see pretty similar. It might have been the left. Let's go into App Store on both. You could see very good. We'll go into apps on both of them here. And here it goes. If you kind of are noticing 16 Pro Max, just a hair ahead loading these things. We were actually still loading there, so that took a little bit of a while. Let's go into Instagram, and you'll see that's faster for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And so far, this is looking exactly like the 14 Pro Max versus this phone. You'll see about a second faster there to load the Twitter profile on the 16 Pro Max. But if you look, the bezels are what are the real big changes. Look at how much difference the bezels are. You'll be getting rid of a notch, getting Dynamic Island. There are bigger changes for you. Action button, camera capture button. There are bigger changes if you're coming from a 13 Pro Max to a 16 Pro Max. So let's go into YouTube here. 3, 2, go. And you can see faster on the right. Let's go ahead and go to this tab over here. We'll go to YouTube trending. And you'll see not a big difference here. Let's go into music. And let's go into gaming and movies. Again, you could run these apps at the same pace. Let's go into Prime Movie. And that's faster on the left, and a little bit slower on the right. So let's go into Amazon here, and you'll see faster on the left. We are getting a ribbon right there. Let me go ahead and do that again, so hopefully we don't get that. And you'll see still faster on the left. Let's go into eBay on both, and you'll see faster on the left. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max giving you a slight boost. Let's go into Best Buy. But again, like I say, So far, this is looking exactly like our 14 Pro Max speed test, just like a little bit faster, just a small amount, but nothing insane. And let's head up out of here. We'll go in the Jetpack Joyride. And I've heard the comments about, oh, this doesn't test anything, you know, your app tests. Look, I do the video rendering at the end. You can go check that out. I do the Geekbench at the end, the 3D Mark. You can go check the graphical technical scores if you would like. But I'm going to tell you the fact of the matter. People open apps every day. That's what they do. They buy a phone, they download apps, and they use apps. And you can see the differences in this test, how much different these apps load, how they kind of perform. It really gives you that visual. Let's go into Real Racing here, and we'll see what happens here. And you can see game modes do turn on for both, but where it really starts to shine is on the 16 Pro Max. In the games, it is faster. I also played Open World Car Street X yesterday, and it was running fantastic with the game mode. However, it did get really warm under that usage. So I will say that the gaming is pretty good on both of them here, but you will get better performance, sustained performance on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So this is one of the bigger areas for upgrade. Dead Trigger 2, as it is like every year, year over year. I feel like I'm repeating myself every year, but that's kind of what happens every year. We'll have a new iPhone come out and it will game better, and we'll have enough performance to render video better than the prior model. That's kind of what happens every year. Let's go into Temple Run 2. And I hear the comments. I know a lot of people want to see bigger changes. I do too. I want to see maybe a foldable or a flipping iPhone, or something even more radically different, like a all screen with no dynamic island. I want to see something a little bit new for the iPhone experience, because it seems like they keep the same design for years and years and years. So I definitely agree with you on that front. However, I still like when the phone gets faster, better performance. It kind of reminds me of the Macs. The MacBooks, they get faster chips. They don't always change the design, but if it's not broke, you always have to fix it. They do give you much faster processors though. Like we're going to see M4 Series Max coming soon. That's nice. And you see, for some reason, Free Fire loaded faster on the 13 Pro Max than the 16 Pro Max. So certain apps might be better developed as well for some of the older models, because developers had time with those older models. So that's another area that you should think about too. And the Apple Intelligence not being available, if you just delay your purchase a little bit on the 16 Pro Max for like a month or two, you'll probably have a better experience than some of us early users are having right now. As in, you'll have the Apple Intelligence already on the phone. You'll have probably apps even faster because they've been updated for these new phones. Certain apps that use certain elements, like camera apps, for example, have been crashing in certain areas because those camera app developers have to upgrade those camera apps to support the lenses. Let's go into Geekbench 6. You'll see that's faster on the right, and not optimized again yet for the left. Let's go into 3D Mark, and faster on the left. So what I gathered from this speed test right here is that there are minimal difference in your day-to-day app launching. There are some difference in gaming. Games do tend to load faster and play better sustained performance throughout the day on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but that 8 gigs of RAM and that newer chip is going to enable the Apple Intelligence when it comes out next month. So that's going to be the separating factor, is those new intelligent features for the 16 Pro Max. So we're looking at the RAM management. This phone has been performing essentially flawless in my prior tests. If this is your first time watching, you're going to see that even with 8 gigs of RAM, I wish they would have went to 12. It's still holding apps beautifully in the background. Some of the butteriest, smoothest, I don't even know if butteriest is a word, but you get what I'm saying. Some of the most smooth animations on the market. And I know it's a visual effect. I know you could turn it off. I know manufacturers could basically disable the animation, but then it would look choppy and not visually pleasing. But when it comes to doing it visually pleasing, I feel like Apple does it probably the best out there. So let's go into Free Fire, Temple Run 2. We'll see Dead Trigger, Real Racing, Subway Surfers, Jetpack, Best Buy. Man, look at this performance on this phone. It's just incredible. We do have a little bit of a reload on the feed, but it's just incredible that this phone came out in 2021. It still feels super solid, good battery life, great cameras, and look at that performance. this was a good pickup. The 13 Pro Max was a stellar pickup. If you bought this phone, you picked up a great one. You sure did. It was much better than the iPhone 12 Pro Max for sure. And here's our final Geekbench scores. This is Geekbench 6 for the 16 Pro Max and the 13 Pro Max. And you'll see a pretty sizable jump there on the single core, about 1,000 points, and near over 2,000 points on the multi-core score. Let's see what they typically average here. You'll see I got a slightly lower on the right. Definitely better than the 15 Pro and Pro Max, but not by a ton for 16 Pro Max. And then over here on multi-core score, you're going to see that the iPhone over here definitely does very good. It's even getting close to that of the 11th generation iPad M2. So not quite an M series performance, but it's still very, very good for a phone chipset anyway. But definitely a nice jump in the Geekbench 6 over the 13 Pro Max. All right, so let's go ahead now and take a look at a Wildlife Extreme test, and we're gonna see what kind of graphics performance we can get. You can see the 16 Pro Max jumped out already ahead of the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but I'll be done with when they're done with their final results. And here's our final Wildlife Extreme scores. You can see on the left 4.341, 26 FPS, and you can see there was some dip in coming back up, but you'll see this is scoring better than 89% of devices. This is not quite as impressive as the M4 iPad earlier this year, scoring better than 99% of the market, but it's still a very fast phone. Over here, the iPhone 13 Pro Max produced a 2185, which is about 2,000 points less than the 16 Pro Max, and an average frame rate of 13.1. And you'll see there's the graphical performance there. So this is why I say that if you're going to do games and take advantage of the graphical performance, like in open world games and stuff like that, the 16 Pro Max is a no-brainer upgrade. This one's scoring better than only 44% of devices on the market. So it's still better than almost half the market in speed, even though it's 3 years old, but it's not quite catching a 16 Pro Max. You'll see even on here, if you look at the average frame rates, the lowest frame rate that it got is basically the highest frame rate the 13 Pro Max was capable of. So I definitely would do this upgrade if you play games on your phone heavily. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and render out this clip. You can see it's 5 minutes and 19 seconds right there. And we're gonna go ahead and show you when you do edit this out. Both have very smooth timelines. This is an Apple-based app, iMovie, so it's gonna be incredibly smooth on both. I don't think the 13 Pro Max would slow you down, but if you want faster export speeds, you're gonna want the 16 Pro Max. Here's proof. All right, now watch how much faster the iPhone 16 Pro Max can do this. We'll hit save video. I'm gonna go ahead and let it start the export, and I'm gonna speed it up, and you're gonna see the difference. And so you can see right there, the iPhone 16 Pro Max did this export nearly twice as fast as the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Now, again, this is niche segment. Like if you're a video editor, a video render, you're gonna do video renders. This is gonna make a pretty substantial difference, especially as the clip gets even longer. Again, this is only 5 minutes. Imagine you did a 15-minute video and you're trying to render this out, get this thing on YouTube from your phone. You're on the go, you're traveling. This is gonna speed up your process quite a bit. So again, this is a demanding task, and this one showcases how much faster that 16 Pro Max is. This is exciting for people like me who do videos, but I'm not sure it's exciting for the average user. But still, again, this is what I call digging deeper. You have to dig deeper to find those performance differences. And also, it would be even better in things like, Luma Fusion. It probably would be even faster as well. So here comes the 13 Pro Max. And don't get me wrong. I mean, if you got some patience, a couple of minutes later on the 13 Pro Max is not the end of the world. But it could really add up if you're using your phone a lot for videos when traveling. And what's great is they have audio mix on here, the camera capture button, better cameras. So you could do everything on a 16 Pro Max without even taking a laptop or a tablet. If you really, really wanted to, it's possible. And there you go. The iPhone 13 Pro Max finishes a few minutes later. All right, guys, so let's do a few websites here. So let's go to apple.com, and you've seen that the left loaded that first. Let's hit learn more. And you can see not very different. I do see that difference in screen size though, especially with the thinner bezels and no notch. Well, it does have a dynamic island, but you get the point. Kind of hides behind there. And was that a little bit of lag there? That was a little bit slow there for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So let's go to yahoo.com now in 3, 2, go. See, I think that was the right. So yeah, so it was just the Apple website with all those new graphics they have for the 16 Pro Max. But browsing very smooth, fast on both. So I don't think it's going to be a massive upgrade here. But you do get to see more content on this more stretched, wider display, bigger display for the 16 Pro Max. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead now and launch the cameras on both phones. We're going to see which one can do this better, or faster, excuse me. 3, 2, go. And that was on the right. So just like with my 14 Pro Max, I think that was the right again. We'll do it again. Now it was the 16 Pro Max. There's not a massive disparity here, but there is a big disparity in zoom, 15 to 25. So a big upgrade there. You also have spatial video. We don't have that here. Spatial video is for Vision Pro. In addition to camera capture button and the sharper ultra wide. Also, I seen an article that said DxOMark rated the 16 Pro Max the best ever phone they've ever tested in video. So if you do want to do video from your phone, no other than the 16 Pro or Pro Max are going to probably be the best options on the market in general. And I always thought they were the best in video, so that just kind of confirms it even more. But let's wrap it up here. I think if you have a 13 Pro Max, you don't have to do this upgrade right away. It's not like a must do at the second. But if you are looking for a bigger screen, probably better battery life, you want to go into the future and you want a phone that was equally like really nice all around, I think this is a 13 Pro Max like upgrade. But if you have a 13 Pro Max and you're looking for huge radical redesign changes, it's probably not here. You will get a better build. It's more polished, dynamic island. But if you're looking for radical changes, don't expect that. Just expect a much nicer version of your iPhone 13 Pro Max. That's what this is. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section of this video. And I'll catch you all in the very next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.